Welcome to the Social Chameleon Show, where it's our goal to help you learn, grow, and transform into the person you want to become. Today, it's book review time. We're doing Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, Embracing Your Life with the Heart of a Buddha. It's not really religious, but I mean, that's the framework she uses and comes from, what she lives in.
It is kind of spiritual, in my opinion.
It is, but even though it comes from this Buddha thing, I don't feel like it's a religious thing. She's not pushing it. It's just what she uses the framework or whatever. But I really enjoy this book. This came as a recommendation from Tim Ferriss. He's really, he really likes her and her work. I guess one of the most popular things she does is loving kindness meditation. So that is a lot of things you'll hear people reference kind of her or that or whatever. I'll link to that for you guys, some things that she has out there for that. But I think she is a leading Western teacher of Buddhist meditation, emotional healing, and spiritual awakening. She's practiced and taught meditation for over 35 years with an emphasis on Vipassana meditation. Mm-hmm. And that's really like I said, the world she kind of lives in. She talks about her earlier experiences in that. And it's funny, the one of the things that stuck out to me in that was when she was living in that lifestyle, in that thing, and she was kind of over it. And then the guide there, the person there, the head guy there was like, all right, beat it then, don't ever come back. And I thought that was really strange. Like,
yeah,
I thought you're supposed to be like this enlightened person. It's like, fine, beat it. You want to be part of our little thing? Go away. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
I mean, I guess it just kind of shows that we're all human, right? I mean, like we're, whoever's on that path. I don't really know much about Buddhism, but I mean, if you're on your path to enlightenment, like, we are flawed as humans. And I guess that's kind of a good thing that goes with this book too. I mean, even as she's talking in her book, like she'll admit she's messing up and doing all that kind of stuff. So
it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear that perspective. Like we were talking offline earlier, somebody had said that to me and it's like, you do and talk about these things, but why aren't you doing it? I was like, I'm not perfect. Like, I get caught sometimes. Like I'm not like I have old habits or whatever things come up or whatever things bother me. Like, and I want to let everybody know and kind of maybe emphasize that a little bit more. Like that's part of life. Like don't get down on yourself or don't look down on somebody else or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we all make mistakes as long as you're trying or moving in the right direction. I think that's the goal, the plan. It's about the journey. It's about going through it, not necessarily about the destination.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't remember where I read it. Maybe it was a YouTube video or something like that, but it was about this story and this guy like went on all these things and like, he's like, oh, I'm finally going to get to the destination. I'm finally going to get to the destination. And then like, when he actually hit the destination, he's like, now that I'm here, this is the only thing I really have with me is how I got here. I was like, it's kind of interesting. But,
yeah, that is interesting. What were some of your takeaways, good, bad, highlights from this book? Like, what were you like? I think I once again pushed this onto you.
Yeah, but this is one of those books that I rather enjoyed, I guess. I'm not sure, Tara, you got to pick somebody else to read your books. I mean, I'm sure that was the impression, but like listening to this at like one speed, it's just like sometimes you just like kind of nod off or like kind of go into other things. That I mean, the person's voice is very relaxing and very calm, and I guess that's the light of it. But I don't really know much about Buddhism, so like when you said earlier, like this isn't a religious book, I was like, I think I kind of learned a little bit about Buddhism.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot about Buddhism. Like this is kind of like my first experience with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I've done like we did like yoga Pilates like on a DVD or something.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't really go to yoga. I don't practice Buddhism, but she's got a lot of stories, I guess, of, Buddha underneath the Bodhi tree and all this kind of stuff. And so it was different for me in that aspect, but I guess the things that she's teaching and the things that she's saying in my life or my experience are not anything new. Mm-hmm. But the new thing for me about this is the way that it's explained. Like, I guess Buddhism, again, I don't know anything about Buddhism, but my impression of Buddhism from reading this book is like, it's very self-centered and not the way that you think, but like it revolves around yourself and what you've experienced and how you come into contact with that. So there's a lot of good things, and I guess we'll go through our sections of the book that I thought were really good ways of explaining things, that other religions get from Christianity, or that people get from psychology. Like she does a really good way of mixing her tales with Buddhism and then applying it to her practice, and going through some of the stories. So I rather enjoyed it that way.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to say with I don't feel like the religious undertones of this book will conflict with any religion that you do practice. No, I think that's where I was trying to go with.
Definitely. No.
I'm not very religious, so that's my interpretation of it. It's not forcing this upon you or trying to pick apart or contradict anything that you already may do believe or whatever. This is just, and a lot of things, like you're saying, their sentiment is the same throughout different religions, different things that a lot of the things reminded me of stuff Jocko says, like, in Dichotomy of Leadership and that stuff.
There's stuff that a lot of people say, but
right.
Again, this is another way of explaining it that I've never heard before.
Yes.
It's like, I've never heard it explained this way before, which is really cool. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're in those meditation circles, yoga circles, Buddhism circles, like this book will probably go really well with you. But if you're not in those circles, I definitely say pick it up, because it brings like a new tool to your tool belt, right? A new lens at which you can look at the world and be like, I never really thought of the situation like that before. So, but anyway, that's what I took away from it. So,
and that's the thing that when I was reading this, what I was thinking about was, I feel like you can just pick this book up and look at the chapter list and kind of just go right there, and whatever you're struggling with or whatever you're looking to improve or whatever, you can just go right there. I mean, you're going to miss a little bit of context, but I don't think it's a lot, but you could just pick out one or two things you're working on or struggling with or whatever, and kind of go right there and get the story. And then there's this meditations at the end of every chapter. I really like that, things to think about, kind of work you through this. I really enjoyed that. And it's like, everybody's going to get something completely different from this book based on either what you're going through or the things you've been through in your life. And I think like when we were going through, setting this episode up, what I got and what Ransom got were completely different things from this book. And I
didn't even know where to start with this book. I'm like,
it's hard. Yeah, right.
This is like a really hard book to review, but yes. I don't know.
And that's what we kind of came to the decision or the consensus was, it's hard because my life, my experiences, the things I've been through and going through aren't the same as Ransom. So he took away something completely different than I took away from this. The lessons talked to us or didn't in a different way or different parts. I mean, I think we only agreed on like one chapter. We both were like, yeah, that chapter we got to talk about.
Yeah. But the rest is kind of like, it's like his and hers.
Right.
But anyway, in any case, in any story, there are a lot of, I guess, characters, quote unquote, right? The names and faces have been changed to protect the innocent. But it's interesting to see how Tara talks to each and individual case. And, so you get to meet a bunch of different characters who are going through a bunch of different scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's at least one or two, if not more, stories that anyone in the world, if you pick this book up, you can relate to the characters in this book. And if you can't relate to them, when you hear their story the first time, as the story continues, as she goes through the book even further, she'll talk back and revisit with these characters. And you can see how both Tara has grown and how, the character has grown. And now they're, going on to the next stage. And it's really interesting. I don't know. It's really interesting.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good book. Anything else to highlight before we start to jump into some of our favorite sections?
No, we can just go. What did you like about it, man? What are some of your favorite sections?
I think I had really 4 favorite. I think there's 12 or something like that in here, or whatever, something like that.
Whatever. It's not.
Yeah. But I guess right off the top, Awakening from the Trance. Thought that was really good. It had that. It kind of reminded me of like Jocko's like rules and stuff and different things. It really, a lot of these things just kind of brought me back to like to extreme ownership or dichotomy of leadership. So it's kind of interesting.
Nice. Yeah. Again, and like this trans thing, I totally agree with you. Awakening from it, but this was kind of like something that I just never heard of it explained this way. And like the way Tara explains it, like the trans of unworthiness, like that's what it is. You're caught in this trance. You're just like, oh, the light, it's so beautiful. Oh, like you're just like dazed out, like,
right.
And you kind of get stuck in this like bemuddled state of unworthiness or feeling unworthy. And just like, I was like, wow, I've never heard it explained that way yet. I see a lot of people go through it. I myself go through it. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, again, it's just like, oh, it's like mind blowing. Like, it's like, wait, what did she just say? I was like, actually a really accurate way to explain it. And, you know, like you're saying, awakening from it is so hard because that's your default mode, right? Like you're saying, like Jocko Willing, like your default mode is just, oh, let's just get in the trance and like, oh, like, it's like, you got to break that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, we talked about this episode many times and maybe even heard from many people. We're creatures of habit. You know, 99% of our behavior is habitual. You get up on the side of the bed, you get up, you put your pants the way on, you brush your teeth, you go about your day in the same ways, and they become habits. And however you pick them or how they're picked for you, most times it's just the way it stays with you for your life. We never think about it. We never think about changing it. Changing it is hard. Like there's a lot of things that go into that.
Yeah.
And then real quick, I just want to highlight the things that I like and that really of this chapter stuck out to me. It's like what radical acceptance is not. And she really just lays out these things like these kind of excuses or whatever. I thought that was really cool. It's not resignation. It does not mean defining others by our limitations. It is not an excuse for withdrawal. It is not self-delusion. It's not to make us passive. It doesn't mean accepting a self. And it's like these fun little things that like, when you read through each of those things, it's like the outs that she must have found. People are like I'm sure it reminds me of the same questions Jocko gets. Like, yeah, I'm taking extreme ownership here, but and it's like, that's the thing she found too, is like to take a radical acceptance. Like, yeah, but like, these are the things and like, those are the objectives that people give her,
yeah. I guess she's kind of got through that as she talks about students. I guess we never really talked about what radical acceptance really is. That's the name of the book. But for those of you that don't know, radical acceptance is kind of just basically accepting whatever's happening in the present right now for what it is. And that's it. Just what it is. Not what you fear it to be, right? Like we're talking about the transes, right? The trans of fear, like, oh, I'm fearing this from happening. Like not what you actually fear, but what is actually going on. Same thing with the trans of unworthiness. Like it's not that you're unworthy at this time. It's just that this is a trance that you're going through. Mm-hmm. What you're happening is what's happening to you right now. The ability to accept that, as difficult as that may be. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what the book kind of goes upon. I don't know. Sorry, Tyson jumped ahead. I was just like, oh, he's talking about what it's not. Maybe
no, it's fine. It's fine.
About what it is. But at the same time, it's like, she even goes further to say like radical acceptance is not just accepting, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. So I shouldn't do anything or shouldn't try. Like that's not the idea behind it. The idea is to actually accept what's going on and to face it, maybe not in a confrontational way, but to sit there, accept it, face it, realize what's going on. And that's a big part of the book. So
yeah, it's that, you have a choice to do something or not do something. You have, however you got into that situation, you can get out of it. You can stop, you can do whatever. And it's accepting that responsibility, taking like, I don't know why I'm going to probably keep going back to Jocko or whatever. This is, This is like the spiritual side of extreme ownership. It's like accepting that, like, this is in my control or it's not. Like, you've got to understand that, accept what's going on. Something bad or tragic happened to you in your life or whatever. It happened. And accepting that. And what can I do about it? What is in my control? What is not in my control? I can't go backwards. I can't stop what had happened, but I can move forward and I can not let this continue to dictate my life, run my life, whatever it is, that's going on.
Yeah.
And then another thing I really like was the acceptance of desire. Like that was a really interesting chapter. And that's one that resonated with me for whatever reason. I'm sure if I thought about it long and hard and I could figure it out, but it was funny that, she goes through a lot of like kind of details and the thinking and different things behind it. And then my favorite part of that was this lady. She was she overate, and she overate for various reasons. And it was mainly, you know, a way of coping, a way of kind of going through this. And she had gone through, you know, all these different programs and different things. And every time something stressful came up or something, you know, whatever it was, you know, she was scared of something or something, she would turn to eating, and she, you know, go to that. And then there's some, you know, I know there's some good science in there about that, you know, why we do that. She doesn't really talk about that. She talks about it from the thing of kind of pausing and saying, what's going on here? Why do I want a bowl of ice cream? What's happening? Giving yourself a second, you know, and, you know, kind of accepting yourself and accepting, you know, this is something I struggle with right now, but I'm going to move through this. I'm going to get past this. I'm going to find out what's happening. I'm going to stop it. And it was really a really fun, you know, and towards the end of the story, the lady was, you know, she was stressing out about a promotion she was going to get. And she's sitting there and she's ready for the next bowl of cereal at whatever midnight. And she's like, wait. She's like, whoa, I finally stopped myself. And I took a second to, and I was like, damn, there it is. Like, that's what's up. Like, it was awesome, like, story. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that part of the story too. I think I kind of remember the meditation for some reason of that story. That's what kind of stuck out at me, because I was kind of a little bit annoyed about it. But again, I'm not in those yoga meditation circles, but from what I remember of the meditation, don't quote me on this, but basically it's like two people sit there and it's like, you know, what is it that you really desire? And then like one person asks and the other person responds, right? Like, I guess for this lady, it would have been like ice cream, right? And then like the person who asked the question is like, thank you. And it's just like, and then you like repeat the process. It's like, well, what is it that you really desire? And you're like, pizza. Thank you. No, like, I mean, that's not the, you know, the story, but it's just as an example. But, you know, the acceptance of desires is kind of, you know, again, I don't know these circles. So to me, this is just a different way of explaining it. But this is kind of the way to get to the heart of the matter. You know, for the lady in this story, it's like, she didn't really want food. You know, it's like, she didn't really want ice cream or whatever it was she's eating. Like, she wanted to get out of the trance, right? She wanted to not feel that fear. She wanted to not feel, you know, that unworthiness. You know what I mean? Like, so all these things that we do, like, there's usually an underlying cause, right? Like, what's in it? And like, if you can, you know, just imagine yourself already eating that ice cream, then it's like, now what do you want? And it's like, oh, now I want pizza. It's like, okay, so you go through all the food, and after you know, imagine yourself consuming it, then it's like, okay, you know, I want something else now. And like, you know, you can just kind of, if you figure out what it is behind what you really want, then I think that's kind of to me, that was the moral of that story. But anyway, that's what I took away from it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I got introduced to maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 3 to 6 months ago was this, you know, it was around this topic. And I think that's why it stuck out to me. I think it's something I still struggle with. I like new things. I like shiny things. I like electronic stuff. I like gadgets. Like, that's fun to me. And but we all know what that's like. It's fun. It's great. Week, 2 weeks. And then it's sitting on a shelf. It's buried somewhere and you never touch it again. So something I want to stop doing that. It's like, I got all these things, these little gadget things, whatever, piling up around the house. And I'm like, I'm just kind of, I was tired of it. I'm tired of getting new cell phones all the time. I'm just kind of tired of all this stuff. So a thing I came across, and it's been real fun, and I've been trying to do this with my kids as well, was, you know, put it in your Amazon shopping cart or whatever, put it on your list and come back to it in 30 days. If you look at your Amazon shopping cart and say, you know, I do want that. Go ahead, click that buy button and it's all yours. But what happens a lot, and what's happening with me is I look at that and I go, nah, I'm good. And I just delete it. You know, I take it off my list or whatever it is. And it's just like, it's been eye-opening. It's been fun. Like, all these things you want in the moment, you're just obsessing about it, you're thinking about it, you're like looking for the deals, and then give yourself that 30 days to say, all right, got it, put it in the cart, whatever it is, put it on my list. I'm going to come back to this in 30 days. Most times it's done. Like, you didn't even really want it. It was cool. It was fun in the moment. And that was something that helped reaffirm that thought with me in this chapter.
And I guess for me, a big part of this book, one of my favorite chapters of the book is about that, because she talks about this thing called the pause, right? And that's exactly what it is, you know. And again, I've heard it from all kinds of things. Like Tony Robbins talks about interrupting the pattern. She talks about it here as, you know, doing the pause, right? Jocko talked about it as making your assessment, like taking a step back, right? What do you call it? Decentralized command, or
right? Detaching. Yeah.
Yeah. You take a detachment, but that's just it. You take a second to pause, to kind of figure out like what's actually going on. Like, because, we all have that innermost, instinctual desire to be like, bam, I want that. And then but she does a really good thing about in her chapters about talking about the pause, and like it's just so important. Like if you want to get out of the trance, right? Like she talks about, or you want to stop doing these things, like you have to be able to take a step back or at least pause. And she does it, it's kind of like a recurring thing throughout the book. Especially when she talks about it, when she went to go into with her son, like she's like talking about, how she had a hard time getting her son to do certain things. And then like he's in there playing video games, and like she just wants to like bash the door in and like get in there and be like, hey, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then like, and she also talks about it with her husband and things like that. It's like, when you actually stop what you're doing and you don't repeat the same pattern, like, eventually somebody's going to notice it, right. And it's like, it's not only, especially when it's two different people, it's like Tyson and I going at it. Like if we just don't jump at each other's throats right away and we actually pause, and it's like, oh, okay. Then it's just kind of, it gives you a chance to see what's going on. And when it's two people involved, it gives the other person a chance to be like, hey, Ransom's not just going off with his witty remarks right now. Like, like he actually might be trying to tell me something. So I don't know, it kind of works both ways. One, it allows you to figure out what's going on, but two, it allows the other person or other things involved. Like when you pause, now the other person has to do something, right? It's like now you're putting the ball in their court. So I don't know. But I like that chapter. That was one of my favorite chapters. Well, the pause.
Yeah. That's a good, and there's a lot to that when you're angry, when a lot of things are going on, like that's a good thing, especially, we get these, email or text messages, hard to see or tell the tone, and you might read it and you just get pissed off. You're like, oh, I got you. And you just start typing something back, like giving yourself that time to okay, let me step away.
You can type it out. Just don't hit send.
Don't hit send. Right. Or like, I know in Gmail and I think some other things you can hit send, and then there's like a time delay where you have a chance to unsend it, So maybe something like that you might want to turn on just in case. You're like, whoa. As soon as I hit send, like I felt a whole different feeling about why I should not have said that, and give yourself the chance to undo it. I have mine set at the max. I forget what the max is. A few minutes maybe.
That reminds me though, actually, there was a college professor. We actually ended up being really good friends, but there was a college professor that when I went into his class, like I was like, oh, this guy, like he's just like explaining all these things. Like he's got all these rules. Like he can't cheat on his test. You can't even go to the bathroom during his test, blah, blah, blah. And like his study guide. And I was just like, all right, whatever. And then like, so I studied my butt off. Like I was like, this test is going to be hard. So I studied like my butt off, and I was like, okay, I studied everything on this guide. I was like, I got this. This test is going to be a hole in the bag. Cause like I spent like tons of time on it. So the first test I took, like, I was like, damn, I was like, I studied my butt off for this test. And like, I mean, I got an A, don't get me wrong, but I barely got an A on that test. Barely got an A. And like, it was hard, like answering questions. And I was like, damn. So like the next day I came to class and I was just like upset. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm going to pass this class. Like with an A, cause I had to get an A. And then like, he's like, and he sensed it in me. He's like, oh, is there, he asked me questions in the class and I just wouldn't respond. And then like halfway through the class, he's kind of just like started urging me. He's like, well, what do you think, Ransom? Blah, 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 blah. I was like, professor, I don't really think you want to know what I think right now. Like I just straight told him that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh. He's like, well, wait on. I was like, he's trying to do it in front of the class. I was like, you know what? I was like, why don't we just finish the lecture? Don't talk to me. If you want to talk to me, we'll talk after class. And like at that moment, dude, I wanted to freaking like lay into him, dude. Yeah. Like fuck. I was like, but for some reason within me, like I paused and I held it. I wrote down what I was gonna say to him during the rest of the class. And like at the end of class, when I went to go see him, Like I looked at what I wrote on that paper, I was like, crumple that thing up and like turn away. But I don't need to say those things to him.
Right.
But anyway. So.
No, it's so easy to do the first thing and just lay into him. You want to know what I think, motherfucker? I got you here. Let me tell you right now.
I was like, it's BS. I studied. The guys you have are crap. Like, I don't know. But we ended up actually being pretty good friends after that moment. But it was a rough start, and it just took that. Like, it took the pause. Like, if I didn't pause, like, I may have quit that class. I may have told him. I might have got suspended from school. I don't know. Things I wrote on that paper, I was like, God damn.
Yeah, and that's a key lesson there. That's the thing. Those are the moments. I know there's the stories that I think it was Lincoln where he used to write. He used to get mad at people. He'd write these letters like, let me tell you, I told you what to do, and like, you're not gonna do it. Let me tell you how much of a fucking asshole moron you are. And he'd write these letters out, and then he would never send it. He'd just put them in his desk drawer, and he'd just keep doing that. And so at one point, some people found them. They read through them. They're like, dude, like, dang, I'm glad you never sent this to, these people. Like, you would have just laid into it. But I guess earlier in his life, he used to lay into people. He used to write into newspapers and tell people how stupid they were and how dumb they were. And he'd publish these things. And he learned that that's just not a good thing to be doing. So, but it's hard. It's tough. It really takes practice, and it takes, don't get down on yourself if, the first time you're not quite good at it. Just keep practicing, keep getting better at it. I know it's hard with family and close friends. You just want to lay into them and tell them how much they're fucking up or how dumb they are. It's tough, but take that second, take those few seconds. Maybe you walk away for a while. Maybe you leave those, emails or texts until the next day, until you're calmed down a bit. And that's one of the key things I think in this book, like you're saying, is that pause and taking that second to digest, to think, to not respond irrationally and emotionally to things.
Yeah. That's good. What are some of the other stuff you liked about it?
I really like the opening our heart in the face of fear. I mean, that's just the thing that, a lot of times it's in our head, right? It's like all these stories, we come up with these scenarios, we push ourselves through. And
what is that saying? Like, the only thing really to fear is fear itself.
Right. There's some other good thing on it, but it's nice to like listen through and go through the thought process and go through it. Like, especially, at the end, you can always just reference right back to those meditations right at the end of the book. There's a separate like table of contents in the actual book just to go to those meditations and just read through it and think through it and understand like where, we're so much more capable, especially, we think about like how we got to this point, how, I got born. The people that came before us had to endure so much. They were the fittest of the fit. They survived. Our genes survived. Their DNA, we are capable of so much. And we forget. It's easy to forget now. Such little things throw us off. And we're scared of, these different things. And we think we can't do things and we're not capable. We're not strong enough. I can't walk anymore. I can't get to the mountain. I can't go 4 hours without eating. Like all these different things that we think about, and it's just in our head. And I really enjoyed that chapter and
the trans or whatever.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what chapter or whatever, but she does mention the story about Mara in her books a lot too. So I don't know, again, don't quote me if I'm murdering Buddhism right now. Please forgive me because I just know nothing about it. I read a book and I think I'm an expert. So whatever the case might be, but the story I guess goes like whenever Mara comes, and Mara is kind of like the antagonist of the story or whatever, right? He's like deception and greed and all these evil things. But whenever Mara comes, like he talks about like, oh, Buddha just invites Mara in for tea, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I see you, Mara. It's like, all right, here's your favorite tea, and you just sit down and like welcome it like with an open heart, and you know what I mean? And like. It's just to me, I like these stories because it's kind of like a cute thing. Like you see like good and evil, like sitting down for tea, and like evil's trying to be like up to no good. And the good guy's like, okay, we'll see you, invite you in, come in, have your favorite cup of tea. We'll talk story. And it's like, to me, it's a cute story. But when you actually think about how hard that is to do, like you take your worst fear. I mean, I don't care what it is. I know a girl out there, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but she's scared to death of like lizards. Like you put a lizard on, she will like freak the fuck out. But like, you try to get her to have tea with a lizard there, like, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. She's going to run away. She's going to scream. But like, it's so hard to take the thing that you fear the most, right? You're stuck in this trance, and like to invite it to come in. And again, this goes back to the whole thing about what this book is, radical acceptance, right? So like, you know, it's not accepting it because it's going to, you know, do whatever, but like with an open heart, right? I guess that's the thing. It's like you have to have an open heart, be open-minded about it, and, you know, face the fear openly. Invite it in for tea. I don't know. Might work for you.
You know, and then that reminds me of like 12 rules of life, or for life, whatever it was. And Jordan Peterson was talking about that exposure therapy. Like, let's start with I'm put the needle on the bookshelf over there. Like, and then it's like, I'm gonna bring it a little closer. And that's what it, like, you know, facing these fears, and, you know, it's all in our heads. It's, you know, whatever reason your friend is scared of a lizard, something must have happened when she was a little kid, and like now she's just absolutely terrified of that.
Whatever the case,
whatever it was.
No idea, right?
Right.
But if you take it back to Jordan Peterson, right? Like 1 foot in the darkness, right? And 1 foot in the light, right?
Yeah.
You have 1 foot planted in the light where you feel safe and stuff. And then you step into the darkness, and like, that's kind of where the balance is. And, you know, and facing the fear too, Tara kind of talks about it too. I forget what the sanctions are for, but like, you do need a place like of safety. Like, you know what I mean? Like before you like open yourself to radical acceptance, and before you get in there and like, you know, start facing your fears, like, you do need something that's, you know, a place that you can feel safe, or a person that you feel safe talking to. Because sometimes when you open these can of worms, like, there's demons in there, man. It's like the dragon, you know, like Jordan Peterson again, like, he's like, you got this dragon, it's so big, it's like taking your house away, and like, you're trying to face this right now. Like, you know, you kind of need that. And that to me kind of reminds me of one of the stories that, it's not that I kind of necessarily want to share it, but I think it's just a very powerful story in this book. So for those of you that are faint of heart, I apologize. It's not that I'm going to explain in a graphic detail, just the story itself is just kind of so shocking and mind-blowing. If
children are listening around you, maybe this is time to pause it and come back to this later.
Pause it, come back to it later, that kind of stuff. But, you know, there's a story in the book, and they talk about this family who's going through therapy. More specifically, the wife and the daughter are going to therapy.
Or the mother and the daughter.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah. The mother and the daughter are going to therapy, right? Because the wife and the husband, right, were either fighting or whatever the case might be. And the husband actually, you know, does unspeakable things to the daughter, right? Molests her, right? Abuses her, you know, sexually. And it's just, you know, again, I'm not sharing the story because I want to. It's just like, if you can imagine what this family went through, right? Like this mom, like feeling like she's a horrible mom because this whole time is happening. Like she's either none the wiser, or, you know, I think the daughter said, like, when she got older, the daughter was saying, like, oh, you just got drunk and lied on the couch and all this kind of stuff. And it's like,
slept through my life,
you know, and all that kind of thing. And like, you know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, as a parent, like, you know, it's just like, I'm not a mom, but I'm a parent. And like, frick, if I was drunk on the couch while my husband or whatever was, you know, doing horrible things to my daughter that I just had no aware of, like, frick, I would feel really crappy as a parent. Like, that's just something you don't ever want. Like, that's one of the parents' like worst nightmares. Mm-hmm. The same thing for the daughter. Like, how do you feel? It's like your mom is downstairs doing nothing, and your father, of all people, your father at such a young age is just doing unspeakable things to you, and you're just like, wow. Like, you know, when you talk about this book, you know, being radical acceptance, like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Superman. That reality right there, like, that's hard for anybody to accept, you know. And it's just, and that's kind of the thing too, like, you know, Tara talks about, like, when you're going to face these things, like, you know, you need a place of safety, or a person that you feel safe around, like, to talk to, you know what I mean? And like, know when, you know, enough is enough. It's not, again, this book isn't just about, accepting whatever's going on in your life. Like, you want to accept it with the heart of a Buddha. Like, you know, you just take it in small bites, you know? But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to touch on that story because it is a powerful story in the book. And if these two individuals, right, this mother and this daughter, can improve their relationship and get on with life, like, it's a really shining example of, you know, the true nature of the human heart and how forgiving it actually can be, and how willingness people are to accept even their worst, deepest, darkest fears that have probably tormented them for more than half their lives. Like, it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the thing about that story. The mother finally, whatever, 20, 30 years later, was like, shit, I did. Like, that was like, she didn't realize it until that moment was like, that was me hiding from the truth and not wanting to know what was happening. I was getting drunk and staying up late and you know, and just sleeping on the couch to hide, and whatever was, something was happening, and you know, it took her a long time to, and then she started blaming herself, like, I was just a horrible person and stuff, and she had to get through that so that the daughter could get, you know, through her thing. And then in the end, they kind of just, you know, embraced, and they said, you know, they kind of broke through the thing, saying, you know, I understand, like, Mom, you did the best you kind of could, you know, even though it was shitty, and they kind of talked their way through it, and they came to this new place where they both can move on with their life. And I think the mom at one point, she was talking about maybe even killing herself or something like that or whatever, and they had gotten past all of that stuff, and it's really an amazing story, a shitty thing to happen. But
yeah, it's like, you know, you're like going through all these happy meditations, and then like you start reading that chapter. It's like, make sure you finish that chapter, by the way.
Yes, please do.
Don't start that chapter and then like, oh, I'm gonna go sleep now.
Yeah,
maybe you might want to finish that chapter. But anyway, you know, it's just one of those things that, like, wow, it's just it's a really, like, gut-wrenching story. And, you know, for these two individuals to actually, you know, come to see any kind of light or goodness in the world after that, like, I think that's really awesome. Really awesome.
That is unfortunately tragic beginning, but an amazing ending. And it, like you're saying, goes to show how much, like, we are capable of once we accept and we move forward and we take responsibility, we take ownership, whatever it is, for what had happened. You know, it's in the past, but we can move forward now. We can come to an understanding, or whatever it is, enlightenment, to move forth. You know, and there's another story, kind of, you know, the little girl. It's amazing how she can remember these things, but there's a thing. That with trauma, you know, the little girl was months old, and she was, the father was pissed off when he came home. You know, everything about the baby, whatever. And then he just shoved the baby under the water in the sink, and, you know, and that moment shaped that person's life for decades.
Yeah, this is a different story, by the way.
Completely different story, right?
But
that's
again,
just a show.
Yeah. It was just like, wow, like, she either remembered that, or maybe that was what she thought of, or right. I don't know how, you know, somebody, but maybe it was just traumatizing enough that the brain remembered it. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but those are the things that just happen, and facing them and going through them and bringing yourself up to that fear, and, you know, saying, we can get through this. I'm strong enough. I can do this. I can endure. You know, the things in our, and most of us, if you have the luxury of listening to a podcast, your life is not hard, you know, at all. You know, maybe it seems like that, but really, really, it's not. Think about not just in our time and the struggles that are happening in other countries and stuff that, you know, but think about your ancestors and what was life like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when you had to do things, you know, to just survive, just to eat. I mean, I was reading something the other day, you know, 1 billion people go, you know, tonight when the sun goes down, they do not have light.
Yeah.
You know, that's insane to think about, you know, but
in the dark, right?
50, yeah, they live in there's no options. There's no choice. If you can't start a fire or whatever, you have no light. You can't turn on the light to finish your homework, or to read a book, to cook dinner, whatever it is, finish the laundry. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the kind of struggle most of us, our great grandparents knew. And we can endure a lot. It's not the end. Things go on. If you're broke, poor, shit's happening. There's a light. There's an ending to that. It doesn't. If something happened in the past, you don't have to stay there. Every time you bring that up, you're reliving that moment. You've got to be able to go past that. Whatever you got to do. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I'm not discounting it, but you can face that and we can move forward. And that to me is one of the things I really liked about this. I've never had nothing like that happen to me.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a story for everybody in this book. Like, you know, these are just some of the stories that we're sharing, you know, that people can relate to. But Tara also does a good job in this book is like when people know that they're not the only one, you know, when they feel like they're not alone, like, you know, I mean, the examples that we're talking about, like if you go out and meet somebody else who has a similar experience to you, like, yes, that's shitty for the other person, but like part of you feels like, hey, you know what? I can relate to you. I'm not alone in this journey. Like, you know, there's another person out there that's had it or that's been through what I've been through that, you know, I can talk to, or that, you know, we can go pray together, or we can, you know what I mean? We can meditate together, or we can go, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes your suffering eases when you know that you're not alone in the suffering. You know,
absolutely.
It's way of explaining.
Yeah, there's always, you know, I know it's easy to get into that mindset of like, oh, you don't understand. Nobody else is going through this, but that's not true. Everybody has those same thoughts. There's people out there. The internet is an amazing resource to look for groups and different things that people are going through exactly the same thing as you. Yeah. Obviously, the details aren't the same, but the scenarios are exactly the same. Yeah. Reach out to those things and get there. It does help. There's some good research, different things like that. We feel better about things when we know. And she talks about in this book too, when you just have that feeling of acceptance and you understand me and you've been there and you've gone through that, right. It helps.
And it's not saying that you're accepting what's happening to you, right? Like, it's just that you're, you know, accepting the situation for what it is in the present. And I guess that's also one of my favorite chapters. It's more towards the end of the book. I think she should have started the book with this, but I guess you got to work your way up to it. It's just the whole thing about awareness and actually being aware of what's going on. And I guess for me, I kind of learned this skill when I was a security guard. I don't know, you too, Tyson, if that's kind of maybe where you started this. You were doing that way early in life, but maybe you didn't.
I don't know. I can't pinpoint it.
But for me, it's just like as a security guard, when you know, yeah, we're there for muscle, but, you know, we're also there to observe. And we're also there to actually make a detailed report. That way, when the police come or when the authorities come, you know, we can describe to them what actually happened, right? So in that, your awareness has to be on point, right? And your awareness and your storytelling and your reporting has to be in a way that's more objective than subjective. And what I mean by that is it's not really open to interpretation. Yeah. You know, just like for me, if you guys are watching this in the mainland, and you don't have any roots or you don't know anything about Hawaii, if I was like, yeah, I was one Hale guy. Like half the people watching this, you may not even know what that is.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like you can't use slang words or pidgin words that are foreign. Like you actually have to describe what's going on. Like, was it a male or was it a female? Or did it appear to be male? Did it appear to be female? You know, you have to be descriptive. What kind of clothes were they wearing? You know, what kind of car were they driving? You know what I mean? You can't just be like, oh, it was one sedan. Like, it's a black sedan. There's like a million black sedans out there. Like, what model was it? What make was it? And this is the part where, like, you got to be descriptive about what it is you're explaining. You know, in your report, you can't say the guy was mad. Like, how did you know he was mad?
Right.
You know, it's like, well, he was screaming. Well, why don't you say he was screaming? Because that's a more accurate definition of what's going on. Yeah. So the story of awareness that I like in this book is when she's explaining it to this guy, and she's like, okay, now picture yourself sitting there. And then he's like, well, I can't help but wonder who's watching me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're just trying to be aware of what's going on. He's like, but who's watching me?
Yeah.
And it's like, and who's watching that person? It's like, dude, you're missing the point.
Right.
Like, it's not about you. It's not about your perceptions of what you think life is or anything like that. Like, it's just about awareness as to what's going on. Like, if I can describe what's in my screen, it's like there's a couch, right? The couch is brown. I'm wearing a red shirt. You know, there's white walls. The light is very dim. Like, you know, just being aware of like simple things. You can start with simple things like that, but you know, then you'll start to see deeper things. And you know, it's just kind of like, you know, eventually I think, the stories that we're talking about, eventually, they start, that girl who got drowned or whatever, that dad put her under the water, like part of her thing was being aware and then pausing. Like eventually, as she grew up, she didn't see her dad as this person who was out to hurt her anymore. Mm-hmm. She saw her dad as somebody who was an injured human being who was hurting. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of when you start with awareness and you start with the simple things, and then eventually you can see that, he was just doing something out of anger. He wasn't intentionally hurting her or whatever the case might be. He was an injured human being himself who was acting in the trance, right, of fear, or the trance of anger, or the trance of unworthiness. And I think getting to that awareness, and maybe that's why it's the last chapter in the book, you'd have to ask her why she put it that way. But like when you can get to that point where you don't just see the person on the outside or the surface, you can actually kind of see, well, what's behind that. Like that's kind of where things start to click and where the light kind of turns on. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard and it's shitty.
Yeah.
Cause when you're judging yourself, it's difficult. We all can.
Oh, of course.
You can turn to your neighbor, your friend, your brother, and say, let me tell you all the ways they fucking up in life.
But even in doing so, like I'm my worst critic. Like, it's like, fuck, when I fuck up at work, like, it's like, damn, I could have killed somebody today. Right. You go home with that, and like, it's like, all right, like, did he die? No. It's like, am I going to do that again? No. Do I feel shitty? Yes. Like, you know what I mean? And that, but again, this whole thing is about being awareness. And it's just like, for me, when I have a bad day like that, it's just like, you got to think about what's going on. And yeah, I don't know. It's just rough.
But that's the way it should be. But what seems to be the norm is, let's talk about your situation. Like, man, if Sally was fucking doing her job, I wouldn't have fucked up today. This guy wouldn't have almost died because this people, and that's really the norm, and at least that's what
or it's like, fuck, I had a rough day. Somebody almost died. I'm not going to go home now.
I'm off the clock. Not my problem. Like,
yeah. Or it's like, fuck, bro. Like, I need a drink, dude. Like,
right.
Like, you need some kind of chemical, imbalance to get over what just happened, or, but like, these are the things, like, again, like getting back to the whole thing, like you were saying, like accepting fear with an open heart. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's tough. And again, I don't know anything about Buddhism, but my understanding from what I've read and, mainly this book is like, it's all about yourself and what you're going through and like how you can interact with things. And, and again, I all about this awareness. It's a different part of the book, but digging into the whole awareness thing is like, Tara talks about using your body. It's just like right there. Like, I don't know. It was kind of on cue. Couldn't hold that in. But yeah, just like that. It's like, what just happened? Like, rewind the track. It's like, ugh. But it's like, I felt like I was going to burp, but I'm on camera, so I kind of stopped. But then, like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, what happened? I felt the gas bubbles from my stomach come up towards my chest, but they stopped. I was able to hold them down, push them back. I had to pause my actions for a little bit. I had to focus all my energy if the tape didn't blur there's a glitch. That was me focusing my energy to stop that burp from coming out because I'm on camera. But see, again, like, this is all about awareness, like using your body. It's like your hand isn't just like, this isn't just a hand. Like, this is an extension of your soul, your spiritualness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can feel your heartbeat. You can feel your breathing. Like, this is the kind of things, like, you just pause, you stop, take a breath in. And like, again, these are all things that will help you start becoming aware of what's going on. And, eventually you practice this, and then you can start seeing, deeper into, like I said, you can see people as injured human beings. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. I really like this book, dude. Now that I'm talking about it, like, I really like this book.
A, I'm glad. B, it it's fun when you, like you're saying, you start to get to these places when you just look at somebody and be like, you're not mad at me. Like, shit's happening in your life. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not about you. And it's like, the jackass that cuts you off in traffic. Like, you have no idea what's going on in his life.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe he's having a heart attack and he's trying to get to the hospital. He's like, I don't know. His kids in the back got stung by a bee. And it's like, I've got to get to help immediately. Like,
maybe his wife's having a baby. Like, you have no idea what's going on.
Right. And the homeless guy on the street, like, maybe he's not a drunk fuck up. Maybe shit just went wrong, and despite his best efforts, like, when you start looking at other human beings as human beings, like, and just think about, your life and everybody's life, like how much things you had no control over, and it's just luck, whatever you want to call it, that, and just say, one choice, one moment, one action, your life could be so different. I know personally, I could easily be in jail. I could have easily done 1,000 things. I could easily be dead. I could easily kill people. You know what I'm saying? One action, one left turn, one centimeter to the right. Like, there's so many things that would have just easily gone wrong. Where I was born, I had no control over that. Who my parents, I had no control over that stuff. When you start to be able to detach from this, and look at other people as just damn human beings, regardless of their situation, their skin color, their neighborhood, their education, like whatever. It's just like, shit happens, man. Like, I get it.
And then another interesting thing that, I think is relevant today that Tara talks about in her book is, like, people are so busy making cardboard cutouts. Do you remember that part in the book?
Yeah. That was funny.
Like, damn, like, that's legit. Like, and it's like we're out here to, like, project like an image of me, like, here's my cardboard cutout, right?
Look at me.
Like, and just start like pinning the merits, like, it's like valedictorian, this is Rantham, right? Like, it's just like, he's like employee of the month, or whatever. Like, we're so good at that, like, just making a cardboard cutout of ourselves to, like, appear better than who we actually are, or something that we can hide behind so that we don't have to show people that we're humans or we're vulnerable. It's like, no, this is me, the cardboard cutout. Like, I don't know, man. It's just, it's kind of crazy.
It's a good way to end the chapter and, bringing it all together. I think, like you're saying, I think it starts there, but we've got to get there. Right. Once you get to that self-awareness, once you get to that place when you can start, I hate to say judging yourself, but for lack of a better word,
No, again, it's just being aware of what's going on and what's internal. Like,
and being okay with it.
Never mind the cardboard cutout that you're trying to make because you want to impress your friends, with your accomplishments, or because you have to do all of this. Like, just get down to it. Like, we are human beings. Like, we are vulnerable. Like, doesn't matter how much you try to hide that fact. Doesn't matter, what you did in your life or how much you've accomplished. Like, you're still a human being. You're still vulnerable. And just like Tyson said, like, if we're out here and, like, you're saying this, like, we're not flawed, like, those people who watching this, like, or somebody who knows me personally, like, I'm very flawed. I have a lot of flaws. It's just, I accept them for what they are, and I that is what it is, and that's part of my strength. Unfortunately, it's kind of weird how that works, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. It's good. It's fun. It's good stuff. I think people respect you more when you're able to admit that stuff and bring that forward in your life.
Yes.
But it's a long road. It's a journey. It takes time. Maybe once this week you do it, twice next week you do it, and then 3 times the week after, and then next thing you know, it's every other day, and next thing you know, it's every day. And next thing you know, like, you're just nailing it. And it might take 6 months, it might take 6 years. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you know you're going in the direction, you're moving forward, you're getting better. This is what the show's about. Like, giving you ideas, giving you information, giving you things and thoughts to take your life in the direction you want to head, regardless of whatever's happening now or what has happened. You can change. You can choose today. I'm going to do different. I'm going to do better. I'm going to stop doing X, Y, whatever it is. That's it right there. Like, having the information and knowing that others are around you to either relate with you, sympathize, empathize, help you through it. That's what it's about. Just moving forward every day, getting that 1% better, whether it's yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, quarterly, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting better and you're moving in the direction.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right. Anything else about this book, my friend?
No, man, I really like it. It's a very different approach for me. And that's what I like about it.
That's awesome. And you know, along this theme, you know, we like to have giveaways, stuff like this, things that come up like this, like we're talking about, things that help improve our life, help us grow, help us on our journey, all kinds of different things. I mean, we've had, you know, supplements to masterminds, to all these different things that we've partnered with, and we've got out there, books and all these things that we try to gather. We want to give you guys, whether it's just one person or it's a group of people, we want to help. We want to give stuff to accelerate you, and there's, you know, to help with, you know, either it's awareness or excuses, whatever it is. Go over to socialchameleon.show/pickme, see what we got going on right now this month. Enter to win, or at least check out the product. Go ahead and get into it. Whatever it is, if you know something that we should be checking out or looking into, let us know. We'll give it a whirl. And then for everything, I'll link to this book if you're interested in getting this book. Like I said, probably 50 times this episode, I think extreme ownership is a similar concept from a different lens, more of a tactical lens. If you're interested in that tactical maybe side, maybe a little less of this Buddhist type thing, you know, I'll link that as well. I think these two go hand in hand as companions. But if you don't like this style, I think that same message is there, as well as some good meditations. I will link. She's got a lot of great stuff out there for free. I will link to some of the things that I found with her, as well as Sam Harris has a meditation app called Waking Up. And I've talked about it before. It's a great app. It's along this line. It's this type of thing she's talking about. They kind of run in the same circle there. If you're interested in that, I will link to that. Anything else you think of, Ransom?
No, that's good, man. That's
and
good.
Then this week's challenge, to pause, to think, give yourself a moment, take a breath, don't react on emotion, perceived slights or whatever it is that you're feeling. Give yourself that chance to pause. That's it.
Oh, well, and, you know, and just taking into our final thoughts, right? This show is always about awareness. So, you know, this book is about acceptance, but more importantly, you have to be aware of things, you know, be aware of what's going on in your body. Are you breathing right now? Is your heart beating? Can you feel your pulse? Then take a look. What are you thinking? You thinking about the laundry? Thinking about what's for lunch? You know, and then look at other people and just kind of see, I wonder what's going on with them. What would cause somebody to do that? You know, just bring awareness. That's all we ask.
And if you know somebody that could use this, or you want to give them, you know, you guys team up, you guys read this together, discuss it, whatever it is, share this with people. This is the best way to help the show reach more people, is to share it. If you enjoy what we're doing, you can leave a like, you can leave a review, good or bad, doesn't matter. We'd like the feedback. We want to know what's going on. In between shows, you can connect with us all week long at the Social Chameleon Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can subscribe to the YouTube version of this or on your favorite podcast app. And for past episodes and links to everything we talk about, you can visit socialchameleon.show. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep transforming into the person you want to become.